Oh, is that Brady?
Hello, yes, I can hear you. Good evening.
So it's like. Yeah. It's just for. Yeah, it's like bond. Just say. It was. Yes. Yep. But yeah, exactly. He sent it back to somebody. Yeah, they almost never have a quarterly shop together. So I think they grew about it since I grew up. They're all their country. I was told upstairs. There's one to see. But I would help. I think so. That's what I had. You noticed that, haven't you? I spend the whole time trying to find it. I don't know. I made your copy anyway.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, you told me no.
not,
You changed
no,
your
no
mind.
to me.
All right, we'll call the order here and get going. Let's do the pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call. Keith Jost. Here. Casey Dax Kennedy. Dave Mueller.
Here.
Brandy Smith.
Here.
Delbert Lowe.
Here.
Anita Seacat.
Here.
Brad Gorsuch.
Here.
Michael Walk. Evan Yoder.
Here.
Karen Olmsted.
Here.
Nina Carr.
Here.
And Russ Huey.
Here.
Did I miss anybody? Okay, let's go on to the record of proceedings from our last meeting. Everybody should have a copy of that. Any corrections that need to be made to last month's meeting? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, we've got a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We got a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, passes, what do we got, 9 here tonight? 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I count right? 9-0. All right. Next order of business is case number PC 2602, application for a conditional use permit filed by Brady Abrams, agent on behalf of Lloyd Funk Trust for a placement of a billboard sign in part of the west half of section 15, township 20, south range 2 east in Marion County. Do we have any representatives here from?
Yes, Brady is online. And let me see if I can unmute him. We do have, this case was noticed in the Marion County Record on June 24th. And notification letters were sent to neighboring properties on June 23rd, 2026.
Yep, Sharon, are you trying to unmute me?
Hi Brady, sorry about that. I think we got you now. Let me see if I can get this switched over to our audio on the TV so
Okay.
everyone can hear you. Give it a minute.
Huh?
It's not picking up his audio.
Is he
Oh,
muted on his
You can't
side?
hear me?
Yeah. I can hear you on my computer, but I can't hear you on the TV.
Okay.
Give me just a minute here. Let me see if we can.
Okay.
Sorry, Brady.
That's okay.
Yeah. Turns out, I had my appendix removed earlier this year. And under anesthesia, I have narrated post-marriage to every nurse in the hospital. Including the many attractive male nurses.
Very much.
Thank you so much. Always nice to see you. Congratulations. Hey. Very amusing.
Are you Bluetooth over to it?
Mm-hmm.
You select the device over here.
1 second, it's reconnecting. There we go. Okay. Mhm. No, that was okay. Good one.
What's the audio settings on the Teams?
Was that all? Did you say Michael?
Should be under audio settings, either under more or. The mic. Oh, yes, keep going down. Yeah.
Give that a try, Brady. Are you?
Yeah, any better now?
I think that'll
Probably go with
work.
that.
Yeah, I think that'll work for us.
I can try to talk as loud as I can.
Okay. Sorry
Yep.
about that.
That's okay. Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thanks for letting me join online here.
Okay, so are you still there, Brady?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so the chairman has introduced your case and for your conditional use permit application for a sign, a billboard sign on behalf of Lloyd Funk Trust property. So I'll let you take it away and explain your case to the board here. I know you can't see them from this view, but,
Yep. Yeah, no problem. Good evening, everyone. So I'm Brady Abrams, Red Cedar Land Company real estate agent. So I personally focus on land sales. You know, I can do residential and rural homes as well. My grandpa's property, Lloyd Funk, he passed away in October of 2025. So it's it's in a trust now. My mom, my uncle, who will be moving to the property there soon, and then her sister. I figured that'd be a perfect place to get a billboard up, to do some advertising in the area. All my family's from Hillsborough and Marion County. I didn't grow up there, but all my family's from there. Like I said, my uncle's still around, so he said he'd be more than happy. And obviously, he's the one that signed the conditional use permit. Would be more than happy to help me get one up there along the highway. I did speak with Flint Hills Electric. I believe he said is their electrical provider, and they had no problems with it as long as nothing was within 10 feet of their conductors. I'd be looking at approximately 300 yards south of his address. I think it's 1648 Indigo. And then on the east side of the highway, obviously, on his property. So does anyone have any questions for me? Yeah, so I'm looking at just approximately 300 yards south of the driveway, or on the east side there. Somewhere between where it says 13 and mile and road on the map. Yeah.
Which one should it be coming through? I'm guessing the mic on your laptop because it's not coming through.
yeah, it should be coming through that, but it's not. It's
Yeah.
just. coming
Okay.
through this. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, no one. I didn't hear anything for a couple minutes. So
Okay. I think we're having some technical difficulties with our equipment here.
okay. Did you ever hear it? Did everyone hear everything I had to say?
I think there was a question as to whether you would own the billboard sign then.
Yes. I would own it, pay the full cost of putting it up, and pay any necessary monthly fees to the property owner.
Brady, this is Evan Yoder. I have a question. I see
Hi,
your
Evan.
address is Eudora, but
Yes.
I'm assuming you're selling land in Marion County, which is why you're advertising here. Is that correct?
Yeah. We had a big 8-tract auction in April. I've already had a couple sales since then. Like I said, my whole family's from Marion County, so that's really, I think I'll do more business down there than where we live up in Eudora here now. We're about 2 hours away, but back and forth all the time.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who's going to be responsible to ensure the sign stays in good order and doesn't
my
go?
Yes, very good question. My uncle will, he's moving to the farmyard there, so he'll live on the property. If any storm damage, whatnot, he'll be able to take care of within 24 hours, of course. But anything major that needs repaired, like I said, I'm down there at least once a month, if not more. So definitely keep it in good shape.
Your uncle's that Larry?
Larry Funk, yes, is my uncle.
Okay.
Mhm.
So you're gonna be the only one, Brady, then, that is advertising on this? You're not going to sublease it out, just you?
No, no, this will be a permanent, yeah, Red Cedar, kind of the drawing I had on the use permit there, my picture of myself, a couple, land agent on the top, your typical real estate advertising sign, just pretty simple and, to the point so people can get what I'm doing and then have my phone number on the bottom there as well. Yep. So it'll be permanent with just that image.
Any other questions?
Sharon, assuming this gets approved, what's kind of the timeline from here as far as hearing back and when am I realistically looking at putting this up?
That's a good question. So if the board will make a decision and then that decision will go to the commissioners. And the next meeting that I'll be available to take that to them will be August 3rd. And then they'll make the final determination and there will be a resolution. So a couple weeks here.
Okay. Perfect. I wrote that down, so I have that date. Thank you.
So second week of August.
Oh, not August. Oh, when I'll hear back.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other questions, then we'll move on to the next step here. So do we want the staff report? And then publish?
Yeah, however you want to do
Yeah,
that.
let's go to staff report.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so this is as said earlier, application of Brady Abrahams on behalf of Lloyd Funk Trust at 1648 Indigo in near Hillsborough. The sign is intended to be an advertisement for Mr. Abraham's real estate business. Based on use, intent, size, location, and construction type, this sign qualifies as a billboard sign. According to the Marion County zoning regulations, Article 16, a billboard sign should be permitted only when the sign is identified on an approved development plan associated with a conditional use permit. So this is the one type of sign that would require this type of a public hearing. The proposed location is along a rural major collector road, Indigo. This parcel is primarily agricultural in nature and contains approximately 198 acres. The proposed billboard will have a gross surface area of 50 square feet and will be supported by 3 4x4 or 6x6 posts driven into the ground. Under the Marion County zoning regulations, a conditional use permit is required for the establishment of virtually all land uses except for agricultural and traditional single-family residential, unless the use is expressly prohibited or allowed within the regulations. So the regulations have 2 specific sections that deal with submittal requirements for a conditional use permit request. The standards for submitting a development plan are outlined in Article 12. Article 24 outlines the factors to be considered for a conditional use permit. The Marion County Commission may recommend approval, and the governing body may approve such conditional use using the following factors as a guideline. So whether the conditional use would be consistent with the intent and purpose of these regulations, staff feels this request is consistent with the spirit and intent of the Marion County zoning regulations. The regulations provide this methodology to address these types of uses in the rural areas. And staff believes this particular use will not be harmful to the overall use of the surrounding properties, whether it's compatible with other land uses in the surrounding neighborhood. The land use in the surrounding area is predominantly agricultural. Staff does not believe this land use will interfere with the other uses in the surrounding area. whether the proposed use places an undue burden on the existing transportation and service facilities. It will not generate additional traffic or road use to the extent that it would be detrimental. The proposed use will not create an increase in service facilities. Whether the proposed use is made necessary or desirable because of changed or changing conditions in the area affected. Staff does not believe this is applicable. The length of time which the subject property has remained vacant or undeveloped as zoned. Staff does not believe this is applicable. The proposed use is not expected to jeopardize the future use of the subject property. Letter F there, whether the property is suitable for the proposed use. Staff believes the proposed area is suitable for a billboard sign. Recommendations are made below. Whether the proposed conditional use would be in conformance to and further enhance the implementation of the comprehensive plan. The use of a billboard sign for the purpose of promoting business aligns with the desire for socioeconomic growth in the community. Whether the relative gain to public health, safety, and general welfare outweighs the hardship imposed on the applicant or on the applicant by not upgrading the value of the property by approving the proposed conditional use. Staff believes there are no public health, safety, or general welfare concerns that warrant a denial of this request. Staff feels the benefits of approving it outweigh the negative impacts. Whether the proposed conditional use, if it complies with all the conditions upon which the approval is made contingent, will not adversely affect the property in the affected area. The area surrounding this property is primarily agricultural in nature. Staff believes no definitive evidence exists that the proposed use would negatively influence property values, create health issues, or safety concerns. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that this land use is appropriate, compatible, and will not adversely affect the property or the surrounding properties. And then any other such factors that may be relevant. See comments below. Staff recommendation based on the information submitted in the application and Article 24 factors discussed above. Staff recommends the requested conditional use permit be approved as presented with the suggested conditions. That the minimum setback shall be at least 10 feet from all property boundaries. Maintain any required clearance from electrical power lines. The sign shall be maintained so as to be structurally sound and in safe condition and kept in a state of undeteriorated appearance by means of painting, sealing, or coating and repair or replacement of damaged parts. All sign parts shall be safely and securely attached to the sign's structure, and that the premises surrounding the sign shall be kept free of clutter, noxious substances, rubbish, litter, weeds, etc.
All right, we need to go to, I'm gonna open up before we go to any voter discussion, I'm open up for public comment on this. Is there anybody that wants to speak on this case? Anybody online? I don't know how many we have online.
We do have one participant online. I do not see no comments in the chat.
Okay, well then we're gonna close public comments and come back to the board here. We can recommend approval as it's written, or we can add conditions, or we can deny this. So what are you guys thinking here?
I'd like to suggest that we put a timeline or if the sign's damaged or it starts looking bad, they have X amount of days, weeks, whatever, to have it resolved before we have it removed. Is there do we already have a?
I don't believe there's an official time set for that. in Article 16.
Only to the effect that they have 4 months to begin. 120 days from the approval date, the sign being erected.
Okay, so the reason I ask this,
And you could add that as an member.
the reason I ask is if you travel I-70 or anywhere near Salina right now, signs there's been signs down for 6 months. And it just looks like garbage.
But what about I don't know how many, there's hundreds of signs in this county that are in total disregard. All over the place. You can drive right along here within a mile and see signs that are no longer relevant or they're, you know.
Or maybe they should put that in with the permit.
Yeah.
And again, do we have a sign Gestapo that's responsible for monitoring these?
When they become in disrepair, they become a hazard. So when the wind knocks them down or breaks them loose and it's another good storm to come through and throw that onto the road or something.
I'm not arguing with you, Delbert. I'm just
So-
saying that, you know,
So you gotta start somewhere. You gotta start somewhere. We're gonna deal with the right. No cracks. How much time? Yeah, what do you think of that? It's 30 days. Say something.
I was gonna say just month, 30 days seems reasonable for most repairs.
We don't have snow here, but that would prevent that from happening. We want to keep our community looking good.
30 days is a proposal for any damage and, you
Would also propose that we add a condition for stating to use the 6x6s, to sign that large.
Yeah.
4x4s with the winds that we have at times, they will break off, they will crack over.
anything else?
He did say that he was gonna be the sole person to advertise on there, but if he comes to a point where maybe somebody else wants to use it, is he obligated to come back to us and say, hey, you know, I need another cup, or this is what's gonna change?
I don't think there's anything in there saying it's him only advertising on here.
According to the permit or the application for the permit, it is just.
Yeah.
Just him. Anything outside of a hand drawing of a guy there.
Or you wanted to add something like that? Well, if he decides to sublease it out, then, I mean, do we need to know who it is that's coming forward, that's so you know what the sign is now? I mean, we know who it is because he's coming for the cup.
I think, because here's a hand drawing of the sign, I think if they go beyond that, they have.
Yeah, and I mean, if he decides to rent it out to somebody else and not himself. To lease it out to somebody else for a different advertisement, excuse me.
So then it's not this and they have to come back and reapply.
Yeah, is that explained then in the cup?
So if the development plan changes, then that would go back through a public hearing. If it becomes a completely different business or a different type of sign or anything
Yeah.
like that, that would be a different development plan. And that would need to come back through this board as a public hearing. I would say that if Brady has at some point like a partner in his business and they just add, you know, if they
Yeah,
redo the face
that-
of the sign to add a name or change a phone number or something
But
like
it's
that.
still proposing the same business.
It's the same use. It's just updated information for that same company, same use.
Do we need to have that specified in the permit?
We could add a condition, something along the lines, and I'm just spitballing here, any change of any change of signed face advertising a different business shall be considered a change in the approved development plan and shall require an amendment to or a a secondary conditional use permit.
So basically, if they change, it's a whole nother business, they change the face, they would have to come back before the board for new.
If they swap out and he adds a spouse or a brother or cousin or something like that, that would be changing out the sign face, but then we have that other thing built in there to where to advertise a different business or a different use.
Yeah.
A different user.
So he would need to come back if he changes.
So if he changes his
Yeah.
phone number, he has to come back.
No.
If he, that's why I put the caveat in there, advertising a different use, a
Oh,
different business.
gotcha. Okay.
So if Bob's Pop Shop wants to rent it from him, they've got it.
Better have small print on the 10x5 sign.
Hey, any other
Yeah.
conditions? So we've got a timeline to fix damage at 30 days. Using another condition number 2 was to use 6x6 posts. And then the third is any change of business. I'll probably butcher the wording, but any change of business advertisement will require a new cut. Okay. So do we have a motion to approve with conditions?
I'll make the motion to approve with aforementioned conditions. PC 26 and PC 2602.
And would we, you're saying, you know, the motion to include the conditions we just talked about, plus the ones that were listed.
Correct. But all staff recommendations and the two conditions that we heard.
Okay.
Three.
Three conditions.
Yeah.
Great, yep. Yep. Okay, we have a motion to approve this cup with the 5 original conditions that's in the staff report, plus the 3 additional, fixing the damage in 30 days, 6x6 posts, and the change in business would require a new cut. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a second. All those, any discussion, I guess? Further discussion, okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, passes
Okay.
9-0.
Brady, did you hear that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Okay, so this will go to the Board of County Commissioners on August 3rd. And I can get that agenda to you and when we have that information about what time.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you everyone for your time tonight, discussing. Thanks again.
All right, thanks a lot, Brady.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to case number PC 26-03. Application for conditional use permit filed by Lance Carter for permitting a second residence on a parcel and part of the northeast border of section 36, township 19, south of 1, east Marion County. Do we have Lance here?
Yes, and before we hand it off to Lance, this was noticed in the official county newspaper on June 24th, 2026. And property owner notifications were sent out on June 23rd, 2026. Okay.
Mr. Carter, you want to come up and tell us about your project here?
Yeah, I'm not sure what all the shared out in the staff report, as far as the piece of property there, it's 7.5 acres. There's a smaller home that we moved in there and remodeled. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, 720 square foot. The main home was built in, I think, 1971 and went empty for a number of years. So we've got that down to studs and then prepared the basement and, yeah, starting to put it back together. So,
Okay. And is this your primary residence?
not right now, no, it's not livable, the main home, so the larger home of the two. Yeah, we had plans to live in the small one while we fixed up the big one and the good Lord took us to Heston as far as work wise. So we currently live in Heston.
The board have any questions?
So the main house, which is the house that you're remodeling,
That's right.
it's set, how many square feet is it?
I think the main floor is 1,700 and a full basement.
And you've got it down to studs now.
We do.
Okay, and the house then you just moved in, the new house is 700.
720
square feet.
Kind of, yeah, a little mother-in-law suite or kind of like an ADU.
You're brave, a mother-in-law?
Yeah.
Mine lives down the road from me, that's close enough.
That's right. We could use some help. We have 3, 5 and under, so. And parents don't live close by either side, so.
And so this house is on a lagoon?
It is.
That was the main house that was on the lagoon.
No, the new residence is on the lagoon. The existing residence was on septic.
And is the septic still there?
It needs replaced, but yes, it's there.
So you're going to replace that for that?
That's right. We dug the lagoon large enough for both if we want to, but I think we're gonna go back with the septic.
For the other house?
That's right.
And do you have rural water or you
We
want to?
do. Yeah, real water.
And so all your utilities will be on,
1 meter.
including your water?
That's right.
Does your improvement district let you do that?
Yeah, real water.
Yeah, 2 homes on one.
Yes.
Yeah, that surprises me also, because they don't allow that
Yeah,
on ours. So I have a question about that.
mine either.
Yeah. They've been out. Yeah, and it's on.
But you do know that they have they're gonna let you have 2 homes on one parcel on the same water line.
Yeah, that's, they're aware of that.
Okay,
Mhm.
and you're in 4?
That's right.
So I'm just looking at the zoning regulations, they define the guest house with the smaller house, be the guest house, I
That's right.
assume.
That's right.
That's supposed to be smaller, yeah. And is intended to be only occupied temporarily. So would that be just, where mother-in-law puts the kids when you bring them out?
So my mom typically comes out and stays for about 3 weeks when we have children. That would be a practical example of that. Yeah.
Will they go to Hillsborough then too?
Maybe.
Guaranteed.
Maybe. We'll see.
Is that a condition?
And just for clarification, the purpose of the conditional use permit would be so that both houses are allowed to be occupied for time, if that's what they desire. The way this differs from a guest house is that a guest house can be allowable under the regulations if it meets those stipulations. But if the parents decide to move in full-time and occupy that house full-time, then that's what the conditional use permit would be for.
And conditional uses are obviously conditioned on the ability to sewer and water structure.
Yes.
So that's outside of zoning. We're dealing with a land use decision, so.
Okay, any other questions?
I'm just curious then, if it's a cup and a conditional use permit and it stays with the property when he decides to move, how does that all fit in then with what we may do here tonight?
So like if he were to sell the property, the conditional use goes with the property.
So it's gonna become a permanent residence for somebody else then.
I think we're seeing that more often, whether that be based on, yeah, cost, but also I think there's a lot of cultures that maybe do that a little better than us as far as, you know, living, whether it be together or close to each other and helping each other, so,
Back to more family compounds.
yeah.
Waltons. You're just not all in the same, one row.
The end of the Arctics, when you look at other areas, it's grown a lot.
Yeah, the road's close enough for me.
Be sure to speak up so they
Yeah.
can hear.
Sorry. All right, any other questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, let's go to staff report.
Sorry. Be a lot of the same information on the staff report except for the answers. So this is the application of Lance Carter, owner, requesting a conditional use permit to allow a secondary residence to be utilized on the parcel. Initially, there was a 1970s home. Mr. Carter requested a building permit to construct a new residence to replace that older home. Initially, the permit was issued with the condition that the existing older home must be removed within 365 days of issuance of the permit for the new residence. And then at that time, he was still debating on whether he wanted to tear that house down or apply for a conditional use permit. So he has decided that instead of tearing down the older home, Mr. Carter wishes to renovate it and allow his parents-in-law to live there, or potentially his parents. To occupy both residences full-time, they must obtain a CUP. That's the difference between this situation and a guest home. Article 1 of the zoning regulations defines a guest house as to not being larger than the primary residence and is intended to only be occupied temporarily, along with some other conditions that are consistent with this case. The current residence that was built in 1973 is adjacent to the highway on the north side and surrounded by farm ground on all other sides. Both residences would share water service, electric meter, wastewater lagoon, driveway, and address. This tract is approximately 7.5 acres and provides sufficient space for the second residence. Under the zoning regulations, a conditional use permit is required for establishment of virtually all land uses except agricultural and traditional single-family residential, unless such use is expressly prohibited or allowed within the regulations. So there again, the standards for submitting a development plan are outlined in Article 12, and then Article 27 outlines the factors to be considered for a conditional use permit. The Marion County Commission may recommend approval of the CUP, and the governing body may approve such CUP using the following factors as guidelines. Whether the approval of the conditional use would be consistent with the intent and purpose of these regulations. Staff feels that this request is consistent with the spirit and intent of the Marion County zoning regulations. They provide this methodology to address these types of uses in the rural area, and staff believes this particular use will not be harmful to the overall use of the surrounding properties. Whether the location of the proposed use is compatible to other land uses in the surrounding neighborhood. The land in this area is predominantly agricultural. Staff does not believe this land use will interfere with the other uses in the surrounding area. C, whether the proposed use places an undue burden on the existing transportation and service facilities in the affected area. If so, whether such additional transportation and service facilities can be provided. The proposed use will not generate additional traffic or road use to the extent that it would be detrimental. The proposed use will not create an increase in service facilities. D is not applicable. E, the length of time that the subject property has remained vacant or undeveloped as zoned. Staff does not believe this is applicable. The proposed use is not expected to jeopardize the future use of the subject property. F, whether the applicant's property is suitable for the proposed use. Staff believes the proposed area is suitable for a second residence. Recommendations of permanent or professional staff. See below. H, whether the proposed use would be in conformance to further enhance the implementation of the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan does not speak specifically to promoting a second residence on a property for the proposed use, but allowing the family to coexist on the parcel helps promote the well-being of the family and population retention. I, whether the relative gain to the public health, safety, and welfare outweighs the hardship imposed on the applicant by not upgrading the value of the property by approving the proposed conditional use. Staff believes there are no public health, safety, or general welfare concerns that warrant a denial of this request. Staff feels the benefits of approving this conditional use outweigh any negative impacts. J, whether the proposed use, if it complies with all the conditions upon which are approved, is made contingent, will not adversely affect the property in the area affected. The area surrounding this property is primarily agricultural in nature. Staff believes no definitive evidence exists that the proposed use would negatively influence property values, create health issues, or safety concerns. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that this land use is appropriate, compatible, and will not adversely affect the property or the surrounding properties. And then any such factors that may be relevant, see comments below. Staff recommendations. Based on the information submitted in the application and the Article 24 factors discussed above, staff recommends the requested conditional use permit be approved as presented with the suggested conditions. If the use of the second residence changes in the future, it must comply with the then current zoning regulations. So if the regulations change at some point, right now the use would go with the land. If the regulations change, saying we no longer allow second residences going this point forward, then once that property changed hands, then it would no longer, it may not meet that criteria. But then in this instance, you still have a house there. So it'd kind of be a multifaceted problem in the future.
I'm confused now.
So
Think about it, like if they choose to sell it and the people who buy it then say want to use it as an Airbnb, the condition has now changed of what they're planning to use it for. Therefore, it would have to go back through
And would have to apply to the.
But it was in,
the then current regulation.
it would if there wasn't two residents also. If there was just one residence and they wanted to make it an Airbnb, it still have to come through you.
It would have,
So
are you saying you don't think that condition would be appropriate for this particular
and see what
CUP?
purpose it serves.
Okay.
Yeah, wouldn't, if the cup is approved today, and then let's say in 5 years, the county decides that they're not gonna allow second residences no more.
Hmm.
And then they sell the property.
Mhm.
Are we saying they're gonna have to tear down that second house?
I've seen stranger things.
But is that what it's really saying? Is that what it's really saying?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
still not
then
understanding, because you said that the
then
cup
new
goes with the
regulations.
property. I asked you that before. When we got started,
Right.
how that is gonna happen if he sells this.
Yeah, if he sells it, this is just saying that if the regulations change, then it may have to, if it changes hands at that point, since it's already established, it would be grandfathered. But if it completely sells to someone else, if the ownership changes completely, then that is the time when, if the regulations had changed, then it is no longer grandfathered.
Okay,
Should it say that then? Because it says if the use of the second residence changes in the future. Really, we're talking about ownership change.
And I think Michael probably explained it a little better than I did. If the use changes more like a short-term rental or something like that, it would need to come back through this board.
And you're right. That's what's required today. So sometimes, depending on the circumstance, you would want to write in the redundancy for clarification purposes. So somebody doesn't, so Lance doesn't sell it saying, hey, I've got a resolution here that says you can do whatever you want. It permits second residences, and me as the buyer that presumes that I can have a short-term rental. It just puts people on point of specifically what this is for. It's for a second residence. It's not for a short-term rental or anything else like that.
But it's, to me, it's extremely ambiguous. And I'm not digesting it still.
Okay, so maybe that condition isn't appropriate for this case.
I'm saying if they want to make it an Airbnb, they need to come back. Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
but that doesn't say that. It says if the use of the second residence changes in the future.
you're not meaning him as the owner. You mean in the future if he sells it to somebody, correct?
Can I suggest that we just strike that condition? Because it's a given that if the use changes, that has to come back to this board regardless.
Yeah, because Lance could still be the owner and the use could change. And so,
You
yeah.
still
he
have
doesn't have
just
to-
have to come back.
Yeah.
Because it'd be nice if this stuff was more layman's terms. I mean,
So would it make more sense to strike that condition?
I think so.
Any objections to striking that?
And honestly, your motion would just be, like, if you want to approve it as is, you would just recommend approval of the proposed conditional use permit as presented. Instead of saying with conditions. Like under the suggested motion there, number 1 is recommend approval of the proposed conditional use as presented.
Right.
Recommend approval with the following conditions, or recommend denial of all or part of the proposed.
Okay, clear as mud.
I'd like to strike it myself because I don't understand it.
I think we can get to that when we get to the motion when we move forward. Are there any other questions or concerns to put forward on this one? Okay, let's go to the public. Anybody from the public want to speak on this one? Anybody online?
I would say one thing.
Could you state your name, sir?
Yes, Scott Smith. It would probably be wise to check with the water district that services that property. Because in our district, and I'm on the water board, they're both, and they do not allow 2 homes on 1 meter.
But isn't that issue between Lance and the water district and has nothing to do with us?
Right.
We're land use.
Conditional use permits, by their very nature, require you to. You don't have to state it in the resolution or the conditions of approval, but if you don't meet the conditions of approval, you have the ability, or the county has the ability to pull that CUP. And something else that we often see in conditional use permits is that it has to obtain all local, state, and federal permits. We usually do that for business type of uses, but it can be, you can make your recommendation contingent upon them being able to obtain on-site sewerage and water service, on-site or otherwise. They have to anyway, but then again, it indoctrinates it and maybe answers some of the planning commissioner's questions or concerns.
Sharon, all that information back here in this office, like the lagoon approval and all of that, it's all there. He's been,
The
it's all-
lagoon,
yeah.
he has
Yeah.
a permit.
yeah, and it's all ready to go, but it was signed off by the state and everything, so we don't have to.
The lagoon, since it's a private wastewater system, it's approved by the county based on county sanitation code and minimum bulletin 4-2 state requirements.
And they've met, he's got all
Yes.
that's taken care of, so that's,
Yeah, the lagoon has been approved.
Scott, were you finished?
Yep.
Okay. Any other public comment? All right, I'm gonna close public comment. Come back to the board. All right. Do we have a motion for this permit?
I move we through PC 2603, conditional use permit with the language for the, to take that staff recommendation number 1 out that you had mentioned that I agree. That would be part of that motion that I just made.
You can,
How do you want to?
yeah, I put yeah, just as presented. I put in the,
Yeah.
we'll put in the minutes that the board decided to strike the suggested
Okay, so
condition.
that's the one percentage. Okay. Then I move that we approve that motion, number 1.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval of the conditional use permit. As presented. We got a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, same sign. Passes 9-0.
10-0. Dax.
Sorry, Dax is here. All right,
Okay, so this case will go to the board of commissioners. And then a red. All right, thank you.
Good luck in building that house.
yes.
And bring those kids to a Marion County school. That's.
Yeah.
that's the UP, by the way. Yeah, appreciate your own work.
Yeah, thank you. All right, let's move on. Case number PC 26-04. Application for a conditional use permit filed by Matthew and Laura both for the installation of a fiber optic utility substation in part of the northeast quarter of section 31, township 21, range 1 east, Marion County. So I believe we got Matt here.
So this was published in the official county newspaper on June 24th, and those notification letters were sent to neighboring property owners on June 23rd, 2026.
Okay.
These copies, so spread them out for you guys.
So, you ready for me to go ahead and?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sharon has shared with you the packet that I sent her, correct? Okay. I'll just go over that real quick. This is in the furthest, most southwest corner of Marion County. That's basically possible. Approximate location is a half a mile north of the Harvey County line and 1 mile east of the McPherson County line. It's, like I said, a very isolated part of the county. I often have to call Road and Bridge to come lay the roads so we can get harvest trucks in and out there because it turns into a 2-track. So, like I said, I was approached by a land acquisition company to purchase a few acres on the corner of that piece. And that was after an adjacent landowner who owns land on 2 different sides to the north and to the old Patty Corner. Turned down the company specifically because they wanted to put this area in this substation in an area where he needed to let out trucks. That would have hindered his farming activity. He is not against this.
So as you guys know, there's two major natural gas pipelines running through the county. They basically, former Fire Chief Eric Gossel, and I've got some of this information from that. I believe they're approximately 30-inch, two of them that run parallel through the county there. And they run a pretty high PSI, about 700, and the pumping station for the compressor station is there on Dutch Avenue, just west of Hutch, or Heston. So when they put those two natural gas lines in several years ago, many years ago by now, they put 3 extra conduit along with them for future sale. 2 of those conduit running along that pipeline are currently full of fiber. There was one empty one that they're wanting to put fiber optic lines in now. Yeah, and so basically, you know, I peppered them with some questions, you know, why can't you just do it on a little half-acre thing right by the road, you know? And you know, to minimize any kind of farming obstacle, because I like easy to farm ground. And they said they wanted a 3-acre area that was, a corner of it would come close to the pipeline, so they could have access underground to that third conduit. So there is a chance, if they don't use all of that ground, they're gonna back to me. Yeah, that picture there has the pipeline. There's actually 2 in that white band there. There's 2 natural gas pipelines maintained by Southern Star. So yeah, that's kind of why it's in that location. Checking, so I appreciate a good visual country view just as much as the other person. And so I specifically went to the nearest residence, which is approximately a mile north. It would be Reuben and Annalyn Clausen. Actually, he just passed away this Wednesday, but his widow lives there. Yeah, you can see it on the far right of that picture there. They have no problem with that. And I actually, where her cursor is, I just recently bought that corner piece of ground, farm ground there. Yeah, so we have very good relationships with them. And then their son lives in a smaller house next to the big house where his mom lives, and I rent some of his ground. So, in full disclosure, right there on the other side of that cursor, it would be to my left. A Brent and Pam Abrahams recently inherited that piece. Not that piece, but yeah, that one there. Yeah, there's a break in there. Yeah, that piece between the two, okay, so yeah, back to Brent Pam's, they recently inherited that. After receiving the letter, I got a very emotional text from her saying she didn't want overhead lines on her ground and this was going to ruin everything. So we had a good discussion on what this actually was and what it wasn't. And I showed her a picture in the packet of that fiber building, I guess they call that. So, and I calmed her down. She was very, was not against it. And she said she was going to go leave on vacation. So that's the only concern that I have heard from local landowners on this. Yeah. And let's see what else. Yeah, and they're choosing it here because I guess there's a certain amount of distance that they have to do connections, like in the schools, basically. And this area would be a couple of buildings that would happen and would have a backup generator also. And I've got a civil engineer here that kind of surprised me by sending him, which is great. And he's got a packet with even more details about the size and layout of the area.
Happy to go through that with you so I can try and answer some of your guys' questions up front, what it is, what it's going to look like. So my name is Joe Hatzfeld. I'm a civil engineer for Kimley Horn. We work with Lumen, who's doing these all over the country, and with Mr. Bob here. So we are, and you can kind of flip through and try not to
say too many things over, but essentially what this is it's a rest stop for fiber on the broadband highway. It's acts the same way as like a water booster pump station. Pretty similar size too, but it's just for fiber optic routing. So, you know, Mr. Boss said it's every 17 to 18 miles where they need one of these to boost the network capabilities and make sure that there's no drop in coverage for the fiber optic. What we're proposing here is going to be 6 24 by 36 prefab metal and concrete buildings that are going to go out here. They're going to be phased. So there's a potential for not all 6 to be made. And I'll pull up the site plan here in a second. But it's going to have property fencing on a gravel lot and then just some security lighting and just the electrical and fiber connections out there. Location, we saw where it's at. The only other thing I want to touch on, so it is a 3-acre parcel, and the main reason why they also wanted to pick it is because there's a phased approach potential. So you'll see in the site plan, I don't know, if it's on here up on the screen, but it's in your guys' packets too, on that next sheet over that site plan. Closest to the road, that's going to be that phase 1. It's going to be 2 buildings there, those 24 by 36. Just 2 buildings in that one, with the gravel lot surrounding it, fence around it, and then 2 backup generators. So that's the phase 1. So they wanted this site mainly because it has a phased approach. They can come back later if they'd like to, and have the option to purchase and finalize that additional land. And if they don't want to, they can sell it back. So that's why they like the flexibility of this lot here. And then another thing I do want to point out, on the site plan is you can see that fiber optic cable connection there in the, I'm going to say plan northeast, but the top right corner, that fiber optic cable connection there to the main line. So, so they're called fiber huts. Got a picture of them right here on the screen. They're modular units. They're 24 by 36 feet. There's some elevations there on that next sheet over on the right in your packet. But they're precast concrete and steel with a brown exterior. So it's not going to be unfinished. They're going to be finished on the outside. And there's one big question that we usually have with these is there's no water or sewer that connects to any of this. It's just power and fiber. That's all that's going to be out there. So the exterior lighting that is on there is security only. It's motion activated. There's side shields on it, so it's only above the door. And if you look there on that right page on the elevations, it's right where the door is, just to the top right, there's that small little rectangle. That's the light. It's really small. It's just pointed at the door. And it'll only be there when somebody's coming in to do their once a month-ish maintenance to check on the property. Also on the elevations, you can point out the side units. Those are cooling AC units. That's all those are that hang out the side. It's essentially just a big window unit. And then just pretty bare outside of that.
One thing I will add, there is power source right along that same side of the road. So they can just literally drop power down from those lines, go to the site. They won't have to go across anybody's grounds, I guess. I won't have to follow around any extra power lines.
On the next sheet,
So you
sorry,
got overhead electric right through that.
Yeah, right through there.
So you just drop a meter onto the pole and you're.
There's actually 1 meter there already because north of this site on that same piece, there's an inner draw bed for that pipeline. So they just drop the line for that to keep that charged. So this is a similar situation.
in terms of power usage, each hut's going to use approximately 3 single-family residents worth of power. They're 600 amp, each building 600 amp. And there's a continuous or DC battery, an uninterruptible power source there. The generators that are on site, they're backup only, they're emergency only. They will run on every 2 weeks for maintenance, make sure they're still in good use. But they did say, the ops team said that they're willing to work with you guys to figure out what schedule that is, whatever works best for you. They don't really care. It just kind of needs to run on a 2-week schedule. So if there's a preference from you guys, they're willing to work with you on that. And then they'll run every 2 weeks. That'll just be a 15-minute. So those two generators in phase one, it'll run for 15 minutes every 2 weeks, and then it'll shut off. And those will be daytime operations too. They obviously won't run them at night unless there's an emergency. But on those testing, it'll be just during the day.
How much battery are you gonna keep on site for each building?
I actually don't know. It's a good question. They're prefab, so I actually don't know how much they keep in there. Typically, I would say there's at least a 24-hour backup on it, but and making sure that it can kick on or continue over before the backup generators kick on. But I actually don't know the exact response on that.
Yeah, that's probably something we need to get because we do have a moratorium on the battery and make sure.
Sure.
It's not all moratorium, not all battery. There's a limit the commission put on there, but we want to make sure we're staying under that limit.
I would, do you know off the top of your head what the limit is?
I don't remember what it was. We'd have to, I'd have to go look at it. Yeah,
I would assume it's gonna be significantly lower. Most of those, the best moratorium limits are mainly out there for full best operations and or some data center that's got it, and these are way lower than that.
What kind of equipment are you going to put in these buildings?
So it'll just be essentially a boost. I actually don't know the technical behind it. I just deal basically on what it sits on, the gravel it sits on.
Okay.
But I know there's just a cooling factor, so it'll come in, it'll just recharge the network and send it back out. In the same way of just pressurizing the water line.
Hi,
Did
good
Justin
evening.
happen to get on?
This is Justin Reynolds from Lumen. And if I could jump in just to help answer some of the questions. In terms of the internal portion of it, it's going to be a rack system, basically just fiber racks of a lot of fiber coming in and then getting boosted and then fiber going back out. That's basically all it is. Unfortunately, because it's a lot of electronics, it does take a lot of that power and produces that heat. So that's why they have those huge air conditioners attached to them.
Yeah. Justin, do you know how many fibers are going to come in to each one of those buildings?
That I don't have offhand because, we have maybe 768 would be on this one. Okay. But that's not per building. That's the route. I'm not quite sure how many would go into each individual building.
That's 768 is the total coming through there. So that would be divided amongst the buildings, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. And do you plan on having any devices that will have CPUs, TPUs, or accelerators in them?
No, there would be no need for that.
Okay. And do you guys happen to know what the estimated peak power draw is going to be on this?
Estimate is about 300 kilowatts per shelter.
Okay.
More like 200. Yeah. Peak power draw would be about 300. Yeah.
Yeah. Peak is what I'm looking for.
300 is whatever.
Per building. Yeah.
Yeah, each shelter will get its own generator, and each generator will be rated at 300 kilowatt.
Okay. Are these diesel generators? Or are they?
Correct. Okay. With 600 or so gallon tanks each.
Does this provide any services to Marion County residents or businesses?
This is for the national backbone. So going from what we call a gateway, which is a much larger building in downtown areas of, Denver or Kansas City or what have you. And it connects those 2 points. So no, from my understanding, this particular line does not support any internet provider in the county. But indirectly, yes, it eventually does get put onto this backbone, if that makes sense. It's kind of
As
like an
far
interstate
as,
highway where your stuff, your groceries do run on the interstate highway, but you can't tell exactly which one.
Okay. As far as the physical site location, how many visits per month do you guys anticipate will be out there after construction's completed?
For maintenance or any type of upgrades, like what was mentioned, at most we'll have 2 times a month, just to check on the generators mainly, and to verify all the equipment is working properly.
And then, Michael, you're on the fire department. I guess my question would be, storing 600 gallons of diesel out there, is there anything we need to be concerned with?
That'd go on a tier 2 report.
Yeah. To your knowledge, is this going in to support AI data centers?
No, it is not.
Okay. No, that's
Wondering, Matt, or the gentleman on the computer.
Miss-
We have a pipeline running through the county, which is tax abated for ever. Are there any tax benefits to the fiber coming in? Does that help Marion County at all, or is that also abated? Sure, if Sharon can answer that, or who can answer that? Is there any tax benefit to
I'm
Marion
not,
County for doing this?
I'm not aware of any tax statements for this particular facility.
So even the buildings would not generate any kind of, like property tax, for example?
They would. wouldn't they?
Yes, so I
So-
think they would not be the taxes would not be abated.
Okay, so they would pay taxes
Yeah.
on
Yes.
those buildings. Okay.
From my understanding, I don't believe we have
They
any state or federal abatements on this type of facility at this
Okay,
point.
just curious, 'cause so many things have come through where
Sure,
there are tax abatements, and just curious about that.
yeah, that's a good question. Mhm.
I guess the question on the roads and access. Matt knows the roads out there. Has Lumen been out to actually drive those roads when it's wet?
So, yeah, that's a very good question, Josh. So basically, the South Mile Road is maintained by Harvey County.
Yeah.
So we're kind of getting a free pass on that, because that is the nearest improved road. Road and Bridge has been out there, and I'm assuming they've talked with Lumen because Road and Bridge called me to make sure they're in the right location. The Road and Bridge is aware that something may have to be done for that half mile. Burden actually falls on Harvey County coming off the 15 highway.
Well, yeah, off of 7 is there, but they still got half a mile an hour though that
Yeah.
is Marion
Harvey
County.
County Mayor
Have,
maintains that.
yeah,
mile.
And just to let you know, Lumen already has a similar facility about 5 miles to the east of this proposed location on Falcon. And it's just not big enough for our expansion that we require. Otherwise, we just build there, of course. But that is on a very similar road. So our technicians are familiar with that.
Okay.
To your
I
point.
didn't quite hear everything there. Something about expansion I heard.
So there's another fiber facility similar to what they're proposing here. It's over on Falcon in that general, in the,
Proposing the new one, or it's already there?
so there's one already there that has been permitted. And what he's saying is that the capabilities of that facility taking on this additional line are not feasible.
Which.
Did I recap that right?
You're the expansion.
Yes. I'm just making the point that our technicians already, go out to that site and are aware of the accessibility of it, so it would be similar to this one.
Are they adding additional fiber optic lines in that conduit that's currently existing?
That's what I was understood. He can provide more.
Did you hear that question, Justin?
Justin,
sorry, I missed it.
McLean. Sherry.
Are you intending to add additional fiber lines through that facility,
Conduit.
through the conduit at that facility?
That unfortunately is not in my wheelhouse. I'm a site development, not the lines. So I'm unaware of what plans for the entire route would be at this time.
I think it's a good question because if I don't know if the two lines are full of the three, two of them are full completely. Is that right?
That's what Sean McLean, yeah.
Okay, so we have the third one that we're trying to get filled. You know, in the future, what's that gonna look like? I have questions about it, just based on what we currently have in place as far as regulations. You know, what's the future? Some of the verbiage I've heard here, like the phased approach and just some things, just kind of wondering, you know, what comes down the line when we open this up. And so there's some, you know, once this comes in, you know, is that open it up to bring a whole nother pipeline in down the road? Or, I don't know. There's so many questions about these kind of things that I'm just trying to get a few more answers. Maybe you can answer.
I'm not sure that there's necessarily an answer to that question because it's hard to tell what technology will bring in the future. You know, we didn't know what fiber was 100 years ago.
Right.
But in my staff report, you'll see that they are going away with the copper line. So landlines will no longer be serviceable. So fiber is one of the technologies that is basically replacing that. So there's, you know, that's kind of the up and coming technology. We have fiber to this building. That's what supports all of our data in this entire building for 3 departments. So I mean, the possibility of more fiber coming is very, very possible.
Yeah, and I think we want more fiber optic in the rural community.
It supports communications and internet.
And especially to decrease the bandwidth. I agree.
Yeah.
Charlie, I don't live too far from you. And yeah, I have a hard time getting a signal. But just to be clear, this does not improve bandwidth.
It
To
does.
Well, it
It does
does, it's
not.
national,
Does not.
Well,
but it does not improve bandwidth to like, you know, your place or my place.
Yeah.
You would need to go that extra mile to pull those things in,
Mhm.
which I don't think they're willing to put that in CUB. To take that to your neighbors that you mentioned up there, they'd like that. They'd say, oh yeah, we'll do it then. But that's $1 million project to send those, to do that extra mile from this train station, whatever you want to call it.
Right. It's
And that's probably not gonna be in the plan
adding to the overall infrastructure nationwide.
nationwide, exactly.
Rest of the show's the coastline.
I know it did. Your teeth store. We have, we could get fiber, but it speeds up the infrastructure or the major hubs from Colorado to Kansas City. Speeds up the signal, which we indirectly get a benefit from, I assume. Because we get a lot of our signal from Kansas City, I believe, is the hub that we get fed from a lot.
For now. That'll change after this summer.
Oh, yeah, but for now.
Yeah.
And we can only deal with it for now. So.
And to address your point about expansion, you know, if they're at a point, I guess, with this being the last of the 3, that if they did try to really trench in another line or, you know, another
Yeah,
conduit, that becomes a very, very much, of course, bigger issue with all of the landowners along this whole
Yeah.
pipeline. Several years ago, they actually dug up sections of this pipeline to recode it. This into pig thread and found some weak spots.
Yes. I've driven by there. I drove that road on
Okay.
50-mile road. And that thing opened up one time. I could hear it at my place 3 miles away.
Yeah.
That was loud. They've just been working on that pipeline here in the last month.
Yeah.
Doing something.
And for instance, we had a fire call one time, there was a gal that hit an upright. And we actually had to bleed it off there on Indigo, on the natural gas. And it was extremely loud.
Yeah.
And we bleed that off at 700 PSI.
Yeah.
But that's the natural gas, so that's the difference.
So, well, I've got one more question for Justin. So Lumen will be the sole owner of this site.
Correct.
Okay. No
I
other
think it
vendors,
will
no
actually
other-
be level 3, will be the title owner, but Lumen, and that's a subsidiary of Lumen, so we just consider it Lumen.
Do you have an answer on the battery question?
That I'm not sure. I know we are revamping our shelter or hut, as you were, the way that they are done inside. So I don't have an exact answer of what would be put into this specific one, because again, to the point is once we purchase this site and get the full approvals, assuming that we might not need to build for a good year or two, and technology has changed a little bit. So unfortunately, I don't have an exact answer. I can definitely get you an answer of what we are putting in today on shelters that we build or install. But that's something that I would have to get in to you later.
It's battery backup. Yeah, it's just, so I think on that one, it would have to, I think the simple answer is it has to stay within whatever the current moratorium guidelines are, or we'll eventually get to the best stuff here, so.
Yeah, if somebody can send me the moratorium guidelines, that would definitely help. If possible.
I do have a question just about the power. And I'm not an electrician, so these watts and all that don't mean a lot to me, or the amps. So just to protect, the people in Marion County, if those would need, 3 houses, I think you said, the equivalent of 3 houses, would that ever peak higher than that to where, and I'm assuming you guys would pay for it, it's gonna be metered there, obviously. But if the power coming into that site becomes, really much bigger than that, higher than that, we don't have any controls in the future, I guess is what I'm saying. If for some reason it would take more power than than the 3 houses, is there any protection? Because eventually the power companies will say, wait, Marion County's, even though they're paying for it, we're going to add something, substations, to get more power to that part of Marion County. And, is there any protections on that? I guess my reservations on this whole thing are just protections like that. Because once we say yes to these kind of things, and we all heard all this stuff about them, this isn't a data center, but we've heard all that stuff all over Kansas and everywhere. And we don't have very many rules on this and even the fiber optics that I can see. And so I just have questions about those kind of things that once we open that up, how's it gonna play down the road? And again, I'm looking at you, but I'm probably talking to him.
So Russell, wise one. Are we responsible for power?
Shouldn't we?
Power
In all honesty, so are we responsible for power? No. But when you start talking, and this is what, again, as Mr. Yoder points out, what we're talking about when we're dealing with data centers. It's there's a threshold beyond which it does impact.
There's always the threshold on everything on.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Right. So 3 homes, 18 homes worth of power. I think that would probably pale. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Pale in comparison to, say, a small data center. I don't know what power consumptions they utilize, but could Marion County afford? I know they're 2 different taxing types, but 18 more homes, 3 more homes. Will rural electric be able to service that? I would imagine so.
And we might double check where it might be Evergy.
It's probably
Yeah, because they're on either side of 15 highway.
whether it's Flint Hills or Evergy, I think the thing we gotta keep in mind on power is we're in the Southwest Power Pool. It doesn't matter which state in the, I think the 14 that are in the Southwest Power Pool, they can build a 2,000-acre data center down in Oklahoma. Guess what?
Yeah.
It's gonna affect us because we're in that power pool. So I'm concerned about power, but it's out of our hands. There's nothing we can do about it. If they're gonna build something big, somebody's gonna build something really big, and the state has, I think it was Senate Bill 98. The state has regulations there for the infrastructure upgrades, but Flint Hills can come in and do what they want and then end up charging us more, and there's not really nothing we can do about that at this point.
And I can understand the issue, of course, but to give you some bearing on this, a small data center probably is a minimum of equivalent to 400 homes of power. And so when we're doing this in phases, we're not putting all the shelters installed right away. So it would ramp up, but again, 18 homes versus, and it's 3 acres. The reason why we chose 3 acres is because some of it is being taken up by the pipeline's easement. So we have access to it, which is great, but we're unable to use that portion of the property. And so it's only closer to 2 acres, really. And we won't be able to do much more than that. We're not, putting a lot of
So we can just
shelters
say
that are going
this
to
issue
be.
is between Lumen and Evergy or whatever, and.
And yeah, we would be paying for any electrical upgrades that would be required if the power lines needed it as well to get to the site.
Okay. Are there any other questions on this application?
Mine as a data center?
No,
No, not at all. Not at all. It wouldn't be on my ground.
no.
But you're comparing it to a small data center.
We're comparing power.
Comparing to power
usage. Power usage. So,
At this-
yeah, so let me come back to one of the questions I asked earlier, Justin. Because for a data center, well, let me ask, are you gonna put any data storage nodes in there?
No. Again, this is
TPUs.
strictly, it's called an inline amplifier. I'm not sure who was speaking, but they said it very well. Just like a water pump, it's just bringing in the fiber, amplifying it, and shooting it back out because it has to go about 60 miles before it starts degrading signal and is unusable. So that's why we have to have these in a certain spot that makes sense.
I have in my basement, so I have Cox Communication coaxial cable coming into my house. And my house is 1,000 years old and it just sucks. So I had to buy a little thing from Radio Shack. So that tells you how old it is. To boost that signal coming from Cox Communication so I can get all my TVs.
So the purpose of my questions for a data center, you're gonna need data storage nodes. So Lumen's already telling us there's not gonna be data storage nodes. You're gonna need CPUs, which do some of the work, TPUs, which are tensor processing units, which is where all the high heat, a lot of the power comes from. They've already said they're not gonna have those. Minus those things, it doesn't fit into a data center definition. So just giving my professional background definitions on this to help with the explanation. So I don't know, Mike and Bill, what you both are in the industry, so.
It's just a boost pump, a repeater of sorts, so. No different than a cell tower, it just doesn't have the tower.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you, guys. Thank you, Justin. Thank you, Matt. What was your
Thanks
name?
for your
again?
time.
Joe.
Joe. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, thank you all.
All right, let's go to staff report.
See if I can make it through this one. So this is the application of Matt and Laura both requesting a conditional use permit to install a fiber optic substation on their property on the west side of Alamo between 70th and 80th streets. There's currently fiber optic line at this location. The request is for the establishment of a substation, which is similar in nature to a communications tower compound, concrete foundation, small structures to protect the equipment, generators, and fencing around the facility. The purpose of the project is for the expansion of telecommunications capabilities. The proposed location is in the southwesternmost corner section of Marion County that abuts Harvey and McPherson counties. This parcel is primarily agricultural in nature and contains approximately 52 acres. The closest residence is approximately 4,000 feet from the proposed substation facility. Again, do you want me to read the same things I read in the last?
Yeah, I will say there was one part in here about expanding broadband and a comprehensive plan that we need to correct.
Okay, so, I mean, just those next two paragraphs that talk about Article 12 and Article 24 being the factors that this board uses to consider these types of application. I'll skip down to A, whether approval of the conditional use would be consistent with the intent and purpose of these regulations. Staff feels the request is consistent with the spirit and intent of Marion County zoning regulations. The regulations provide this methodology to address these types of uses in the rural area. Staff believes this particular use will not be harmful to the overall use of the surrounding properties. B, whether the location of the proposed use is compatible to other land uses in the surrounding neighborhood. The land use in the surrounding neighborhood area is predominantly agricultural. Staff does not believe this land use will interfere with the other uses in the surrounding area. Like Matt said, he doesn't want to farm around anything he doesn't have to. C, whether the proposed use places an undue burden on the existing transportation and service facilities in the area affected, and if so, whether such additional transportation and service facilities can be provided. The proposed use will not generate additional traffic or road use to the extent that it would be detrimental. It will not create an increase in service facilities. Whether the proposed use is made necessary or desirable because of changed or changing conditions in the affected area. Fiber optics drastically enhance telecommunications capabilities. It increases bandwidth, provides faster transmission speeds, and has virtually no signal degradation compared to other sources of communications transmission. Fiber optics are essential for modern data networks, telecommunications, and internet. The FCC is driving the rapid decommissioning of copper infrastructure, which is the traditional landline networks across the United States. As a result, communication companies are forced to migrate to fiber optic and wireless networks. E, the length of time the subject property has remained vacant or undeveloped as zoned. Staff doesn't feel this is applicable. The proposed use can coincide with agricultural activities on the property. Whether the applicant's property is suitable for the proposed use. Staff believes that the proposed area is suitable for the proposed use. Recommendations are below. Letter H, whether the proposed conditional use would be in conformance to and further enhance the implementation of the comprehensive plan. Fiber optics drastically enhance telecommunications capabilities. It increases bandwidth, provides faster transmission speeds, and has virtually no signal degradation compared to other sources. This is kind of a repeat of the letter D up here. One of the goals specifically stated in the comprehensive plan that is currently in effect is to continue to work with providers to expand and enhance internet service within Marion County. Telecommunications is a vital piece of infrastructure that could stand to be fortified in Marion County.
So on that one, I think we need to strike that out of there because this is not going to meet that goal.
That's not meet the goal, no.
One of the goals specifically stated in a comprehensive plan is to work with providers to expand and enhance internet service. We're not gonna get that. And we heard that from Justin as well. This is a coast to coast long haul fiber and all they're doing is repeating the signal. So we're not gonna get any lateral movement or lateral expansion for Marion County. So I think we need to remove that from a justification.
Okay.
Interstate without exits.
And then item I, whether the relative gain to the public health, safety, and general welfare outweighs the hardship imposed on the applicant by not upgrading the value of the property by approving the proposed conditional use. Staff believes there are no public health, safety, or general welfare concerns that warrant a denial of this request. Staff feels the benefits of approving it outweigh the negative impacts. J, whether the proposed conditional use, if it complies with all conditions upon which the approval is made contingent upon, will not adversely affect the property in the affected area. The area surrounding this property is primarily agricultural in nature. Staff believes no definitive evidence exists that the proposed use would negatively influence property values, create health issues, or safety concerns. Therefore, staff is of the opinion that this land use is appropriate, compatible, and will not adversely affect the property or the surrounding properties. Other factors that may be relevant, see comments below. Staff recommendation, based on the information submitted in the application and the Article 24 factors discussed above, staff recommends the requested conditional use permit be approved as presented with the suggested conditions. 1, if unused for a period of 12 months or more, the structure shall be declared abandoned and the applicant or property owner shall be required to remove the equipment and facility. And 2, must follow all local, state, federal regulations pertinent to the facility.
Okay. Before we go to our discussion, I do want to hear from the public because I know I've gotten some emails and calls, so I want to open it up before we do our discussion. So we'll open up public comment on this one.
Would it be zoned commercial, industrial? It's not having this zoned ag currently.
So this wouldn't change the zoning for planning and zoning purposes. It would still be zoned as.
This is what I was thinking.
For tax purposes, it may change that classification. That would be the appraiser's department.
Okay.
Zoning typically doesn't change your tax basis, the use on the property. So I could have some industrial, I could have 80 acres of industrial zone property in Florida.
Right.
It's gonna get taxed at the ag rate, not the industrial rate until I build an industrial building. So when they,
Build the industrial building, then it'll be.
if they put these units on this 3 acres, then yeah, that 3 acres will be taxed at the rate.
Then, they said they weren't gonna have, I don't understand the node stuff, because I'm not the computer guy. But they said they're not gonna have those. Can it be written into the cup that they won't have those?
CPUs.
Yeah.
I mean, the TPUs and accelerators.
To add a condition of, if a recommendation of approval to add a condition to
Specify.
you have better technical knowledge to create a condition that would prevent this from becoming a data center.
Yeah. Those buildings and infrastructure couldn't even start to do that. They'd like trying to put a big diesel engine into a
But
little,
if they say they're not going to use those nodes, do we write it into the cup that they're not going to? It's kind of putting them to their work.
It could be.
That was
Any other comment?
curious, you said 300 kilowatts per hut, is that correct? There may be 6 huts, did I catch that correctly?
We have Justin.
300 kilowatt per peak power draw per hut. And each would have a generator.
Oh. So, I mean, that's all, I mean, it's still peanuts in comparison to a data center. But, and I know as a county commissioner, we probably don't, like Josh said, we probably don't have a lot of power. As far as the Southern Power Pool is concerned, and we're paying for all that stuff, but it is still concerning. But that's a lot of power draw. In a relatively rural area, just making sure that it's a concern. But and the broadband stuff, 5G stuff, it's coming. We don't have a choice. It's going to be. It's a fact of life now. So
it's out of our control.
Yeah. So I mean, we just have to do as much as we can to control things as much as we can today, and things will change tomorrow.
I'm on board with you 100%, but that's just, like, it's almost, there's nothing any of us at this table can do about with the power. Yeah, I think on the power issue, we need to be lobbying our state officials on the Kansas Corporation Commission, KCC. Okay.
Like, write anything in as far as the battery is concerned, since I know we're under a moratorium, but this is looking a couple years out, you have no idea where we're gonna end up.
Yeah. Definitely, we would have to stay within the limitations of that moratorium. But these, to help understand, the batteries in these are just USB back or UPS backups. And I mean, they're only going to put in what they absolutely need because those are very expensive. They're not going to make these a big battery storage facility. So I understand exactly what they're doing. And like I said, those buildings couldn't even start to do 0.1% of data center work. Even the physical size of the building.
Just kind of the same comment that we had about the CPU, NPU, all this accelerator stuff. They say it probably doesn't fit, but just to make sure we have approved in there.
Yeah, many places. Some of the planning and zoning and commissioners went down to Wichita with me a couple months ago to a data center that has existed for 30 years or more. They use battery. They have battery inside there, and the purpose of that battery, which would be similar to this, is power goes out. They just need enough time to get switched over to that diesel generator, and then they'll run from there.
Clark Direct, I have a comment about the road. Currently, 80% of our sales tax dollars go to the bridge for road maintenance in this county. And this project is not going to be bringing any sales tax dollars into the county. To rebuild, I was just down at the site this afternoon after a 1/4-inch rain, and I couldn't get 50 feet off 70th. I could have, but I didn't want to tear the road up. So, but my point is to rebuild that road to facilitate that construction is going to be a significant undertaking on behalf of Road and Bridge. And the bulk of that money is becoming county taxpayers. So I would recommend a condition that Lumen pay for the upgrade of that road to complete that construction. If this permit is.
I think we could recommend it, but ultimately the county commission approves anything that we send over. So the question was, is that up to us to decide on the roads? And yes, we can make the recommendation, but ultimately anything we pass goes to the county commission for approval, so. All right, any other public comments? Okay, I'm gonna close public comment, bring it back to the board here for any discussion on this one, so.
I have a quick question for them, for L3 crew. The fire suppression system, do each one of these, as you call them, have its own fire suppression system?
I don't think Justin is on the meeting anymore.
I would assume yes. I can't speak for that, to be honest, but I can confirm. I feel like that would be highly unlikely that they wouldn't have that.
I agree with you, and I would assume too, but I want that answer.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
That each hut or each building or whatever has its own dedicated fire suppression system, enclosed fire suppression system.
All right. Any other questions or comments before we get into? I think we're gonna have some conditions to discuss here. You have something, Michael?
I just gonna say, I think it makes sense on this because right at the corner of Marion County, or as far as you can go, I mean, if we don't, right, we can take property tax off of the buildings once they're put in. If we don't, what are they gonna do? Move a mile back and either be in McPherson or Harvey County? So we get something out of it. I understand it's not maybe not what everybody would want out of it as far as fiber optic expansion, but in the long-term whole, I think we do get a benefit out of it, but.
Okay. Any other?
My concerns are that do we have the language in place to do the things that we've already talked about? Several people mentioned different things in the CUP. And we just need a little bit of time to put that together. And I just hear over and over again, these places that are dealing with these issues, they regret not talking about these things before they gave approval. And we've talked about several things here tonight, and I have some other questions. I don't want to appear any stupider by asking them, so I'm going to hold them to, we have a question, a time to meet, to get the right things in CUP that several people mentioned. And it sounds like it's something that needs to, it's going to have to take place to continue to upgrade the system that we have. But do we have that all in place for Marion County for this one and the next one and the one after that? That is going to keep getting, there'll be a bigger one next time. I just think we need to answer a few questions first and get this all written down before we give the approval. But that's just my opinion.
So, go ahead.
I just said I agree.
So you're suggesting we take more time, put verbiage in for the cup.
Exactly. And to see if that works for them. If that sounds logical to them. And I think it does. I mean, everything that is said, even the fire suppression system, that's a great idea. If some would catch fire out there with these winds we have some days, Matt knows how those could race across those areas. That's a good question right there. And he thought of it.
Sharon, how many of these are already in the county? Not just with L3, but.
I only know of one other offhand. And it's that one over by Falcon.
We're out on Falcon. I guess it'd have to be straight east.
Yeah, it's almost directly straight east of there.
So I guess to put some of this in layman's terms, remember back in the good old days, all the phone lines
kind of every area had a little building and it had a little switch building in it. To where this is the modern equivalent of that.
Absolutely. I guess that's my point. We've got two people with extensive experience and I really appreciate that. Are we really going overboard on something which is a switching station and trying to make it into a data center?
I think the fear of the day is data centers. I think there's a lot of unknown or misunderstood, but it's got everybody's hair on fire. So they're afraid that anything that is data related, which is absolutely everything we touch, is a data center or a mining center or something. This is just a standard communications pumping station, so to speak.
So what conditions would you recommend?
I think what we have here, plus verbiage to enforce that there are no TPUs. Any data related items, we need to set that standard now. If that road needs improved, that's just per this one thing. And I would be shocked if there wasn't a fire suppression, a dedicated fire suppression system in it. But with, living in a rural area, response time and, as fast as technology is going, training our firefighters to keep up with this technology is a challenge. And so, but I do know of L3 very well. I would be shocked if they didn't have the latest, greatest suppression system, but I want to put in there that it shall have this.
Those would be the three additional conditions. Russ, do those sound reasonable?
Yes, certainly.
I guess.
And
Could we have,
did you have the one in there about maintaining underneath the battery limit of the current moratorium?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have talked about that, just as a verbiage.
I think the moratorium would quash that. I don't think you could stop that many batteries in one of those
I
buildings.
don't think you can either.
Yeah,
That's an awful lot of it.
It's a lot of batteries.
Not today's technology.
I guess, could we ask if the applicant, those conditions would be acceptable to them?
I've got a couple more that I would like to add to this list. So I think, given the concern we've heard, but I will say based on my knowledge and discussing, I don't believe this is a data center. I believe it's a complete switch or a regen site for fiber. These things are going to happen more as data centers are built. Now, this isn't a data center from what I've heard, but they're looking at putting a data center in Reno County. They're looking at putting one in Emporia. As we said, the signals only go so far. They got a regen, and these are coast to coast. So we're going to see more of this. So I would propose that we limit a cup to this 3 acres and no more than that. So if they wanted to expand beyond that, they'd have to come back for another cup. It's already stated, but I think we should state it. The exterior lighting would be fully shielded. It is stated that way in the plan, and it will point down at the door. Generator testing limited to daytime hours. We've already talked about that a little bit with Lumen, and they're willing to work on that. Noise level at the property line. I think we probably need to be putting a limit on that.
It was in there.
But I think we need to have that. We need to document this. And then any future communication towers or additional buildings require separate approval. If we limit it to the 3 acres, whatever goes on that, there's no expansion beyond that without a new cut. And then you've already talked about the TPUs and the data storage. I think we would need to take some time to get that worded correctly. I think putting CPU in there is probably detrimental because everything has a CPU in it today. the process. But the TPUs, accelerators, and data storage do currently define what a AI data center is going to use today. So, those are the conditions I would put on
What about the roads though?
the roads.
Because that should not be on the taxpayers.
Well, we did put that on there.
Okay, we did, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I would also request that, when they submit the full development plans so that it's on record with the county before the county commission takes it up. So we know exactly what the full plans are and everything. They've already, I guess we should also think about water. They said there's no water connectivity there, but it probably worth stating it in a condition.
Says in the presentation, no water sewer.
I know,
Also has all the DBAs on.
but those are,
But if, so correct me if I'm wrong, if we approve it as proposed, right? As they propose their plan, then even without us stating that separately, right, then that's what they're held to. Or do we have to have that verbiage in there to protect on the sewage and the water? Like if their proposed plan has none of that, it's basically, that's the development plan.
That is their-
So if we're approving their development plan,
That's included in that,
As presented.
yes.
Yeah, they have a real good presentation.
Yes.
So whatever information is in that handout, that was submitted as part of the development application packet.
then your decibels
yeah,
are
well,
covered.
this wasn't presented as part of the application.
It was entered in the
Now-
record now.
Yeah, it's in the
Okay.
record now. Which I'll need a copy of one of those from someone, so I can enter that in.
You know that one.
And I can scan it and return it to you, like.
So what Mike is saying is the items that are in development plan, there's no need to restate those in the CUP.
You can cover everything that's in this packet by stating that the,
Right.
as presented, shall conform to the development plan as presented, and that's part of it.
Right, and then do the.
And then the ancillary conditions that lie outside of the fire
Right.
suppression and those things.
But that way we don't necessarily muddy up the water with all the extra.
Right. It's a great reference. You can reference things. We don't have to go through the staff report. We can reference the staff report, assuming that we all read it, right? So, I'm seeing kind of three buckets here. We got Sharon's staff conditions, the two of them. And then we're adding information in that packet that further constrains the CUP. And then our ancillary or our conditions that we come up with tonight for recommendation.
Okay. I have a question. When the wind farms came in, weren't they required to do a lot of road upgrade with rock? That's all. Can we kind of request that they rebuild some of these roads for their maintenance in the future? That
Shall.
down at just Bo's house, it's impassable.
Right. What were you saying, Ross?
Shall enter into a road maintenance agreement with Board of County Commissioners, that type of language.
Yeah.
Yes, I would agree.
Because we want them to maintain their diesel engines, and so they'll need the roads to get there on those days.
So I got a little bit of a lot of questions about just referencing the plan. So 2 years down the road, something changes and it needs to be another 3 acres. What gets referenced? How do we, meaning the cup gets written, and let's say none of the conditions get written into the cup specifically, and we're saying we're referencing this plan, this development plan. Is that kept on record?
Yes, all this is kept indefinitely. It gets scanned in, saved on our server, which we have redundant servers, and we also have to keep the paper copy with this case. So it's referenceable.
I still think we need to have a condition that's not in there that limits it to that 3 acres, and any expansion beyond that is.
The fact that the application is tied to a legal description ties it to that 3 acres. Any additional acreage would be an expansion and an alteration of the development plan. They would have to by law to come in for. Yeah,
Okay.
they are contained within that 3 acre site.
Does that apply to power upgrades? Well,
That applies to anything that they put in there.
Okay. So what are we thinking? Are you guys open to, do we want to write this? I guess we need to get the fire suppression information that Elbert's requesting. Coming back to Dave's question, I guess, to Lumen and the team there. Do these conditions sound workable?
I would say yes. Especially like, correct me, you guys have a building permit that it would have to get submitted through to build anything, right? So fire suppression is a requirement of nearly any building permit, so. And so that yes, absolutely, the TPUs, I can't speak to that, I imagine yes. But I think if you guys were to list all your conditions, with those listed conditions, send it back to the applicant, make sure that Lumen agrees to it. And if they don't agree to it, they'll pull out before Board of County Commissioners and come back with a new plan based on your guys' requirements. And they'll work with you to make sure you come to an agreement. So if you approve with your conditions listed, and if they don't agree to that, we'll go to Board of County Commissioners and get denied. So.
I would, there's a lot of wording and a lot of, I think there's more consideration to be done here. I'm not against it, but I think we need to get this cup right. I think we need to cover our bases as a county and come back next month and with a cup that we can sit down and read through. I think there's just a lot of data tonight to look through, and I've been in the industry 30 years, so I understand what they're putting in here. But I do think we should, my proposal would be to wait a month. So with that, do we have a motion? Postpone this till next month, and in the meantime, we get the full definition of the conditions and the answers to our questions about fire suppression from Lumen, and then come back next month and review the cup.
I think it's two-way, I'm not opposed to it. But I think it's a two-way with sitting down with Lumen and saying, hey, we want to nail this down a little stronger.
Yeah.
We want to discuss, we've got to fix, we're not gonna, you got to come with a road agreement.
Yeah.
It's not with the county and, but working with them versus throwing stuff at them.
Right.
Because they may say, yep, we'll add that. We have no
Yeah.
problem. This is our system, and then we can spell it out.
So in that case, who reaches out to Lumen on that? Would that be me, you, who, Sharon?
Yeah, typically.
Okay. Is that something you could keep me CC'd on if you're listening back and forth?
So can we spend about 1 minute on what we want further definition on, so that Sharon has a list?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
you can,
we don't get mad at Sharon a month from now because she didn't give something.
At least not for this.
We don't get mad at her. That's
She'll get mad.
one thing you mentioned about the road maintenance agreement, that's something that the Board of Commissioners, I mean, you can put it as a condition that they shall enter into an agreement for road maintenance with the governing body, but that's an ancillary agreement with the commissioners.
If we put in there just I understand that we want to ask the question about what capabilities they have for fire suppression. But if we put in there that must have in-building fire suppression, isn't that enough? Like what they choose to put in there then really doesn't matter as long as they are meeting that requirement of having some form of fire. Is it better that we specify down how much fire suppression that we have? Because that gets into it.
We're getting.
So are we gonna go pay an engineer to determine that?
Well, that's the
It's already
thing.
done, it's already done. That's already done. But it's ensuring that, you know, because I don't see any fire suppression apparatuses on any of those photos. And,
They weren't in there. I couldn't find them. I looked twice.
you know, and it's, okay, you know. There's no signal, I didn't see any signal lights or anything that would say fire suppression activated or whatever. So that's what made me bring it up. So I'm just not seeing what I would normally see. Yes, it's in the building code and we go to the state fire code. But, I still, I want to sleep better at night knowing that my first responders are protected.
No, it's a remote, somewhat remote location, so you don't want a fire started and not have it some suppression system.
Right, that's on them. I just don't worry worried about our people.
Until
the
it's
community.
like Civil County.
So back to your point for sharing, on the list is verified fire suppression.
Yep.
Recommend road maintenance agreement.
Yep.
The technical stuff that you guys talk about.
Yeah, the verbiage.
I need to know what I mean. The alphabet,
The lighting being
the lighting.
shielded, pointed down.
But again, that one's already in the development plan.
They
We're gonna really reinforce that.
Reinforce that one, okay.
We see a lot of lighting then. We got enough light pollution out there.
Full development plan. So since we're gonna delay this a month, I think we should be able to get a full development plan from Lumen, so we know exactly what's going on, and that can be passed to the county commission.
They do discuss lighting pretty well in here.
Yeah, they,
But you know, since this isn't just one little station, that this is gonna, you know, be able to grow up into 6, is it? You know, so
that could get right.
that, well, there's everything to do with what we're talking about.
What other ones have that?
What's that?
What other ones had?
We covered. Those were the 6, they're the 5, yeah.
Everyone happy with that list?
Yeah.
So just to throw this in there. Statewide typically adopts the NFPA 76 standard for telecommunications facilities. Automatic smoke detection, fire barriers must have 1 hour minimum fire resistance rated barrier, portable extinguishers, and then some other things from the state fire marshal office.
So we're.
So that
You
covers,
just said that it had to have.
I guess that's just being redundant.
Must follow all local, state, federal regulations.
I think that I wanted to request just a redundant.
And
Okay,
the
that's-
state fire
just
marshal's
clarify.
office is who would enforce fire code.
Part of it, yeah.
So that we can take that out because it just becomes redundant.
Okay, so do we have a motion to, guess we postpone this till next month? And get the information?
Is there a potential that you guys could just include it as conditions that we are required to have a full development plan prior to Board of County Commissioners? That we're required to reinforce all of the conditions prior to Board of County Commissioners, and you just accept it with those requirements? So then we come back in a month, we're not tabled, we don't have to go through 2 more months. We come back in a month and answer all your questions at Board of County Commissioners.
I think you're gonna get them all answered in the next couple of weeks, and then you'll be ready. That it should be uneventful for the meeting.
Yeah, I would think next month it'll be fairly uneventful.
I sure hope so.
Okay. We have a motion to postpone.
Motion to postpone for 1 month.
And to get the answers to the 6 questions or whatever.
Yeah. Second that. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right. Passes.
And the other one was the battery, right, Delmer?
Battery.
Battery.
Sharon could get, she'll have that answer. We know it's.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Our work session on our comprehensive plan. I sent a note earlier. The idea on this that I'm thinking is we handle a chapter or two each meeting if possible, and that puts us through the entire comprehensive plan by the end of the year. Probably a lofty goal, but we gotta set a goal, put a stake in it somewhere with it. So I don't know if everybody had a chance to get through the introduction in chapter 1. I would open it up for any discussion. And again, it's just a work session, so we will take notes on the changes that we want to make for chapter 1 in the introduction, and then once we've had time to digest it, then we can vote on it, probably in the next meeting. Any items to bring up? Or are we completely good with these sections?
We're talking chapter 1.
Chapter 1 of the comprehensive plan, yes.
That takes the page 22.
Yeah, your pages are probably different than mine.
Yeah. This is check. What am I wrong red level? Okay.
Now I get this maps. You get there. Oh, there's not.
Okay, okay. You haven't found it either.
There it is, chapter 1.
Okay,
Page 10.
page 10, page 10 to page 22.
Okay, so yours is the same pages as mine.
Okay,
Yeah, but some of them have lots of pictures on them, so. So I did have one from page 18, talking about the soils of Marion County. There was another section talking about the LISA program. On page 13, my question was, should we? USDA has soil classifications. Should we remove the? Yeah, should we? So if we go back to page 13, it talks about getting out of the defining prime farmland under the LISA program and doing things on a case by case basis. Should we clarify that with protecting prime farm ground and using the USDA soil classifications?
That's I'm rusty on the soil classifications USDA. I mean, it's still a lease system, right?
The Lisa system was probably somebody's
No.
PhD thesis
Oh, okay.
in the eighties. And it was more of a mathematical grading system
Okay.
based on the USD soil classification.
Okay.
Think of it as just maybe a higher level if you want to not factor in the dysfunction of it all. But it attempted to, primarily in more metropolitan counties, dictate where growth should occur. When you're taking up quarter sections, half sections, sections of ground for residential development, for example, where you're truly eliminating that prime farmland. In practice, that's never really taken off in rural counties. Typically growth, large land uses, things of that nature, that fully remove properties from agricultural production really isn't quite the problem that I think they envisioned in the eighties and nineties. The big catchphrase when I was actually younger was sprawl. Everything's going to be sprawl. Nothing in the Great Plains is sprawl. So this is where my predecessor, Dave Yearout, and I, one of the things that we disagreed about. So that's why we moved away from it. It's who's gonna do the Lisa calculations, who's gonna do that type of thing. So if they're certainly be open to a better, newer way of handling the definition of prime farmland. You know, something like a quarry, I would imagine, I'm not a geologist.
That's not gonna be bothering.
You know, that's not gonna be prime farmland, right? So you're not gonna have those conflicts. That would be maybe the biggest conflict I would see, because it's gonna take up so much acreage. You know, when you get into the data center thing, depending on what the county's direction with that is. Battery energy storage systems and solar, that would come into play where you are removing potentially thousands of acres from production. Back when this plan was built, prior to a lot of these new modern hosts coming to the middle America to buy cheap land and hoodwink people, if that's, it's my, I should have let my personal opinion in there, but, it's simply not, you know, the cost benefit analysis of it. If you wanted to try to train somebody and certify somebody in this Lisa program to identify that, are you going to deny a plat? Are you going to deny a guy carving out 10 acres for a machine shop somewhere in the county because it sits on whatever classification of farmland? You get into kind of property rights, you start to elbow into property rights. My farmland, it's prime only to me. Those types of things. It just kind of lost the glow of the Lisa program, just kind of faded into obscurity. So we wanted to, I think the plan prior to the 2018 plan was full of it.
Okay.
Gotta do it. So we had that in there as explanation as to why it wouldn't be included. We're moving away from it. So it's difficult to talk about the preservation of prime farmland for the types of applications that we see, again, except for the large installation, large utility, things of that nature. But and you offset that by, you know, it seems over the past 35 years that efficiencies in farming, from the yield that you get per acre, all of that has offset the loss of, you know, I would suppose 40, 45 years ago, there was concern, hey, are we removing our food source 1 degree at a time, over time. And that was the concern, and I don't think those fears have played out in the intervening decades.
So are most counties going to the site-specific reference then, case by case?
I don't know of really any counties that deal with that, other than as a justification to prohibit certain large utility scale land uses.
So I think the question we gotta ask ourselves with the changing times and everything that's changing. The comprehensive plan talks about protecting farmland and it's Marion County is primarily agriculture. If that's where we want to stay, then I think we need to probably have some stronger language to protect that and back it up when we do get the request, because one day the request is coming for a 1,000-acre data center. It's coming. How are we going to make that decision and back it up?
What data center if we prohibit?
Hmm?
What data center if we prohibit it as a land use in the county?
Well, and again, we're talking about unincorporated.
What's that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So industrial parks and.
Yeah,
Whatever,
they can do what they don't have it done. Yeah, they could do that. I'm just saying, if the vision for Marion County is primarily agriculture and we want it to stay that way, then we need to, I think we need to strengthen the wording here to protect it as the direction. It doesn't mean some big industrial application wouldn't get approved in the county, whether it's a data center or something else. I'm just saying, this is the vision, the driver of the county.
Actually, where we've lost most of our farm acres are the 5-acre homes.
Very simple, nothing more. I've got a question. Are we putting the cart in front of the horse here? I looked through our survey. I want to spend a little more time with it because I haven't. Should we not get this out and get results back before we really move forward on looking at changing our comp plan? Don't we kind of need to know the voice of everybody before we start working on decisions?
And apologies, I had it in my notes that was, we were going to try to figure out the survey so we can launch that, because it's kind of the long arc in the process, especially if we're trying to get something done by the end of the year.
Certainly, it's not preventing us from having discussion about what we see. I mean, it's just changing the comp
Maybe
plan.
areas to address in the common plan.
Yeah.
Highlight.
I agree with that. I just don't want time on something. We want to do this, and this, but the feedback we get says we want to go this direction. So that's, we have those questions.
Those part of the packet, those questions. And right there. So maybe the better route tonight, given it's 9:24. Do we want to solidify these questions and then we'll come back to chapter 1? Sound fair, but
I agree with that. We need to flip,
Yeah.
work on that. If it's long sentence poll, then we need to get it executed.
Yep.
Those comments that you guys talked about.
I'm just trying to figure out what they were talking about. I live without it.
All right, so let's get to these questions.
So there were a couple of documents. There was a draft survey question document submitted by Commissioner Dirks that was directed to this board to review. And then there was a supplemental information generated by AI that I think helps with the wording, maybe, of some of the questions, from my understanding.
That help, right? The verbiage.
The verbiage. So there were three documents kind of in that. There were the original survey questions from the 2017.
And
That's that one that has the color with it.
that's what was sent out 27.
That was 2017. And then
What did we gain from that lovely survey that Russ put together?
Most the most memorable thing was the open-ended question at the end that generated maybe 200 to 300 different questions. And your planning consultant didn't go through them all that carefully. So you'll get cuss words in there and you'll get
they were pretty raw.
certain political stances, let's say.
Oh.
Yeah, the one up here on the screen, that's what the 2017 survey.
And that is, all of this is kept in an appendix of the comprehensive plan, including bulleted versions of the open-ended questions, but, but this, hey, this is what we did 10 years ago, 9 years ago, 8 years. Years ago. Certainly, this is your comp plan. This is your community survey. Yeah. We need to launch. We can launch whatever questions we think we need to have answers to, so. State of county services, state of county roads. What do you think about this? What do you think? Well, everybody, 2/3 of the open-ended questions are lower taxes. I mean, this is the standard issue. You fall out of the sky anywhere in America, it's gonna be some of the similar type.
So back to my question, what did we gain out of this 2017 survey that was just earth shattering and made us wonderful? The state of the world is placed today.
So I think maybe like one example might be, and I would have to look back through this, but some of the questions were what are ways that Marion County can benefit? Like some people suggested more housing, better internet service, more daycare facilities. I don't remember the specifics, but so then when those things are suggested and they're written into the comprehensive plan as goals for our county, that comprehensive plan serves as kind of our hierarchy for the regulations that are developed and how we handle land use within those subsects. So
An example would be on page 313, question 7, should commercial and industrial growth be concentrated in the city or promoted throughout Marion County? That's probably a poorly worded question, but you'll see that the majority was, or the highest response was to keep it in or near cities for obvious reasons, infrastructure.
But that was a slanted question. You're gonna get that answer. Should commercial and industrial growth be concentrated in cities? The answer is, of course it should.
Well, but if you look at the numbers,
yeah,
there's not that much difference.
I think the,
17 to 15 on that one.
I think that whether the answer to these questions have earth-shattering results doesn't matter. We're here to represent the people. We've got to give the people the opportunity to speak out. If they don't fill out the survey, that's on them. But I think we've got to give them the opportunity to answer the questions, and we'll take the feedback. We take that into consideration, but we can't make them do anything.
That's well put.
Yeah. The point
If you get a 10% response rate, which would be roughly
I was trying to go toward what were the lessons learned that we, of good and bad, so that we don't go get beat up again with the survey.
We're gonna get beat up. I accept that.
And the times are changing, technology is changing, the board has changed. I mean, one of the big items in here was promoting industrial wind energy. at the time, that was favorable by the people that submitted their comments and by the board and by the governing body. Some of those ideas have changed. We have different industry, we have different boards, we have different viewpoints on the areas that you individually live in. I mean, some of those things need to be addressed in these questions and in this comp plan.
I've always been frustrated with surveys like this because they tell where a person feels right now. And I agree with Brad. What do you get from them? And I see the childcare. Well, they built a nice, took over that church and they have a nice childcare situation. Maybe this was part of that. I don't know. But I wish surveys would say they're worded in such a way that they say, what can you do? I've always been interested in Tampa. It was a big part of that. How did Tampa, you drive into that town and it's a neat town. I worked with a gal from Tampa for a long, long time. And I know they did some neat things there. I don't know how they cleaned it up. I don't know if they put a thumb on them. Or they got cooperation from those people over there. But what did Tampa do?
Well, there's lots of success stories.
Yeah.
There's lots of success stories.
And so that's the kind of step we need to follow. And I think if these surveys can be worded right, so people in Tampa are willing to go work in that grocery store in the evening. Or, help a neighbor with a house that's falling apart. What are people willing to do? And these kind of surveys don't really get you anywhere where you can go to that place and say, well, in Marion, we want to do the cultural, historical thing. Peabody's, doing that theater thing downtown. And it's gonna be several $1 million, and they got close to $1 million already on it. And so there's a group of people that are willing to bring that back to life. And so I guess I'd like to see a survey that we can go back and say, well, God, the people here, and you got to get, I noticed a lot of the stuff in the plan, it said, they put it back on the city's backs, that we'll leave it to the city to do whatever it was that we talked about, that was spoken about. If we could somehow then, help those people that here's what they want to do in Peabody. And, how can we move that ahead? Then they're strong about it because the survey says they want to do something about that, whatever it is. So
are you saying that the wording of the survey could be revised? I think that's kind of what it.
yeah, I agree with Brad. What do you get?
Yeah.
Tell us, there's a snapshot in time of where we feel things were. And,
But again, it's important for us to hear from the community so we can do their bidding.
Yeah.
And now we're concerned with the unincorporated part of the county.
Right.
That's,
I can tell you that we had meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. We had stakeholder meetings. We sent letters, we sent emails, we made phone calls. We wanted cities, we wanted townships, we wanted schools, we wanted fire districts. You know how many people showed up to these meetings? We got more response out of this survey than probably what we got out of the people that actually attended.
And what percentage? I know 30% is, if you get 30%, you've done well. Did you get that?
Oh, no, if you get 10%.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
10% is that's cool.
So I think this was.
35 people answered.
35.
35 answered.
I would venture.
How was it dispersed? Like, how did people see?
Online.
There's the problem.
Yeah, and we sent out information about how you could take the survey, where you could take the survey if you didn't have a computer. We directed people to go to the library, to go to the courthouse, to come to the office. Trying to get that information out there. No one is concerned until they're concerned.
Yeah, right.
That's the problem. So how do you get that information?
here's the unpopular opinion. Get out there and talk to the people, hand it to them. Can you fill this out for me?
Well, I was gonna bring that up to,
Oh, but that's what they did in Tampa. What'd you guys do over there? How'd you get all those people involved?
You got your 5%.
yeah,
You got 5%.
That's 5%. Better than a lot over there.
it's feet on the ground.
Yeah.
It's feet on the ground to make it happen. I think the one thing about an online survey today that may be different than, when was this, in 2017? So we're pushing 10 years. In the rural area, there has been an effort by Nextech and others to bring fiber to the homes, so you have more internet access. Doesn't mean people are going to take the survey, have to go to the library, they've got more of it. But I think if you really want to make a difference, it's going to be boots on the ground. It's going to be boots on the ground, going up to Tampa, talking to people. How did you get to this point? That's how you form the vision.
The QR code would be a good idea. Because you can put it in a lot of places and they can scan it, take it right on their phone, submit their results.
So the elderly,
No, but I,
non-elderly, okay, but the elderly, I can speak.
Not you, Brad.
I'm personally elderly, but a lot of the elderly population are,
you still need.
they
to-
don't even have an email address.
Right, I think we
Let
still
alone
need
get
to
on the
mail.
internet.
I think we need to mail. Some of the, with the rural, I think it's important to mail. Still, you get more response when you mail it to them. But a QR code is a quick and easy thing on your phone.
And the US Census sends out the thing, and you have to fill out the packet and send it back in, so.
And if you don't do it, someone comes and knocks on your door.
Yeah, but it is very forceful.
So there's some logistical issues. Yes, so various forms of survey have better chances of being statistically significant. Mailing is, of course, the best way to at least distribute the survey to the maximal number of people. So I'm not sure what 82 cents times 12,000
Yeah,
people.
we're working on it actually.
How do we?
So in a city, if we were doing this for Marion, everybody gets a water bill.
Yep.
So historically, sending it out with a water bill was the highest economical return on investment there. And that only works for small cities. So
Trash service, I think everybody in the county's got trash service.
Yes, that comes from different.
That's not guaranteed. Cause I get crap from Florence all the time, in my trash bill.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So do we want to make modifications to these questions?
Which are these ones?
Which
And.
one are we looking at?
This
This one.
the question.
I'm assuming this is what we potentially want to send out for this survey.
what's the third one here that I see this?
So there was an AI analysis of that.
So this is dumped into AI.
Oh, this, I think it was this one right here.
This, I understand, but did we just, we took, this was put
This-
together and then said AI analyze.
You got this one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so this came from Tina. It was discussed at a commission meeting. The commissioners, I think that email was sent as in part of the packet here. The board requested that the planning commission utilize the attached documents to formulate the public survey. And there are a couple of documents to utilize as a starting point for formulating a public survey for the comprehensive planning process. Send this to the board members. Document number 1 was draft questions submitted by Commissioner Dirt. And those are the ones that are numbered. They have like, this is Marion County Comprehensive Plan Public Survey questions at the top.
Okay.
And then document number 2, supplemental information generated by AI. Building on the initial survey, expanding it, and with suggestions for more neutral language. The intent is to be a starting point or a tool for the planning commission's conversation to be discussed at the July meeting. Once the final draft survey is ready, the board of commissioners want to see it before it is distributed.
I spent a lot of time on the AI analysis and I thought it's not bad at all.
Yeah, I agree.
I like
I like the questions, yeah. I think, like Delbert said, it painted a picture of where the county is at, and I like the way they're working. And then maybe we take that and find out,
Is there any holes or?
yeah, where people are willing to jump in, and I like the way we word the questions. And I agree.
So does this survey go to everybody in the county, including this, in the cities, or does it just go to unincorporated?
Yeah, it would be available to everyone in the county.
This one was available.
Because that's gonna skew the numbers one way or the other, because
You need a question to ask whether you're in city or rural. I mean, it's like,
There is. I thought there is. Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah.
Like at the end.
Yeah. Where do you live? City, state, township?
Well, I guess my question is, when we do send this out and we get the results back, are we gonna focus on the unincorporated, the people from the unincorporated part of the county, the people we're representing? Or do we take the input from people?
Well, the county government represents everyone. I pay
County,
I pay taxes in Sedgwick County, and I vote for Sedgwick County Commissioner. But I don't live in the county, so therefore, what do I care? What does Sedgwick County care that I live in the middle of Wichita when they're talking about a bridge improvement program? So I get that, but.
Because I want to focus on what our constituents in here, what our constituents want. Or what.
But there may be some that are living in town and have property outside of town and they know what, they have an opinion on what they want the county to do. So I see your point, but it goes both ways, because I know people that they have farmland, they have a farm, right, but they inherited the house was.
Oh, I hear, and I agree with you, just.
So do we want to?
I think maybe the answer could potentially be the framing of the questions. Ask questions that pertain to people who live in the rural areas, not in the city.
I agree with that. Thank you.
If possible, we'll try that.
No, I like that.
So we can work off of that version of the survey that a couple of members have talked about preferring. And I can distill these three together and then come up with, and have that proposed survey based on these three documents. And I have have no problem ripping off and throwing the 2017 survey away. But we'll compare, make sure that we're addressing everything that the commission has asked for, what AI has generated, and compare it with what. If there's something worth salvaging out of the original.
Yeah. I don't care about the AI, I just care about the content.
So,
And then get
you
it back.
made a really good point.
I did look at this.
So, I think it's a good point that when we ask, for the demographics, do you live or own property in unincorporated, or,
A lot of people don't even know the definition of unincorporated.
No, it's
Rural county, rural parts of the
there you go. Outside of the birds. We're getting punchy.
Okay, so do we want to, I guess, next steps to close on this, do we want to have Russ then come up with questions for next time? We go through that.
I will get that immediately issued out to Sharon. Sharon's
Okay.
with the board, with you all, obviously. And I will try to explore what other methods that I'm not accustomed to for delivery. The Survey Monkey thing had its advantages from a cost standpoint. The concern is always with, we don't want somebody outside of Canton chiming in and getting online. Yeah, that, as far as skewing the data, that's the biggest threat. I believe Survey Monkey may be able to geofence. I don't. When you deal with the county, I think the larger the geographic area, the less reliable that system would be. From my standpoint, this is the lowest. Take it or leave it. But Survey Monkey does one thing that's very easy and fast, and that's do the statistical analysis as part of the survey. So you get updated. All of this, more or less, this survey format was more or less 2 or 3 mouse clicks to print. So it does a great job of, here's your survey. We don't care if you wrote a good survey, but here are the results. Here's the statistical analysis of it, throws together your charts, boom, from that standpoint. I don't know if, to be perfectly honest, I'll certainly be looking into this. What the ideal is. So I'm going through this exact same exercise in Park City. Park City's town of 10,000 and growing fast. They have the budget and the desire to utilize Wichita State. Wichita State has a fantastic community survey outreach. We'll hear back from them at the end of next week. I think they're going to get their proposal back to the city on July 24th. A similar type of sales tax survey was conducted by Wichita State for the city of Mays in Sedgwick County, and that ran about $45,000. That's what we're up against. Is that a better survey? Absolutely. You got I was on a Zoom call with 2 PhD people in statistics. So fantastic. It's at $45,000, fantastic. Park City's probably gonna say, yeah. Right? So these are all constraints. I'm not trying to shoot holes in anybody's idea. I serve you. So we'll do your survey the way you want it to be done. But those are the historic constraints to some of these methods.
Yeah, I think if we get the questions for next time, I'll also do some research on what options we have technology wise to do survey.
Be great, yeah.
I'll look at that, so.
But you know, your little survey monkey, Russ's monkey.
And I hate that it's Survey Monkey. I have to say that out loud.
You got one question, question 6. How much attention should Marion people turn to 3-13? Top of the page. Question 6.
That's a no-brainer. That's a 40-word question.
But, right. But
We didn't need to ask that question. We don't need to ask, is the taxes too high?
Where do we know the answer to that?
Like, one of the questions is about solid waste. At that time, solid waste was a huge issue in the county. But it's not there anymore.
Well, we
There's other issues.
gotta learn from mistakes we made in the past. Let's not make them again on this survey.
Absolutely.
Let's fix the questions.
So that you tailor them to.
That's
There were some of these after looking through it after our last meeting a couple of months ago. It was just kind of like the intent was perhaps okay. But instead of saying, do you want more? Do you want me to pay you more money?
Yeah.
Well, it would be more like, what things are you willing to do in order to earn more money? Right? That's a better,
What's the trade-off?
that's a better way of getting at it. So.
Okay. We got a plan for that. Do we have any off agenda items we need to cover? Right.
so Russ's action is to
To synthesize what we have in front of us tonight into a format kind of like Commissioner Dirks and AI generated. I, honest to God, thought I had a Word document with all these questions on it. The only thing I could find was this to make the case results. So that's why I issued that. It will not look like this. It will look more like what we see in the back of the other 2 examples that the team has sent. and get that out immediately, so we're not looking at it a week ahead of time. And we can back and forth and workshop this thing outside of the meeting. So we have a little bit of type of discussion.
Sounds good.
So between
Yeah.
you two and
Yeah.
copy me.
Yep,
Yeah, and then we can
we can get it out. So
distribute it.
Distribute it out to a larger audience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
that'll work. All right. We have a motion to adjourn. I make the motion to adjourn. We got a second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. All right, thank you, guys.
Hey, John.
You get some, you should have something in your law.
Thank you.
Well, it'll be here's on Thursday. Right here. Take a picture. Increase our.
This one.
Let me.
It's a great. I got video.
Yeah.
Yeah.